Good morning to walk the dog, temperature-wise, a little on the cold side.
A little cool out there. Maybe some frosty paws out there, but otherwise, hopefully not quite as muddy as it's been the last couple of days. So satellite radar, you see that cold front that's pushed across the region. That's ushering in some cooler conditions for us today. We hold on to that for your Wednesday before our next weather maker arrives. So upper 20s from Chicago to Detroit, but 20 degrees plus cooler up into Marquette, where we sit at 7 up there, 1 in Minneapolis, 6 below zero in Bismarck. And so from the northern plains all the way into portions of the Great Lakes, cooler air mass. And you can see how that colder air is starting to work its way down towards the Ohio Valley, but still milder conditions down south from Dallas, Memphis, down into New Orleans in the 60s, 72 in Houston at this hour. Bringing it back closer to home. So the flag is whipping a little bit. We do have winds out there, which will likely factor into some wind chill readings, much cooler than where we sit right now, air temperature wise. That air temp is 28 in the city, 29 in Ann Arbor, 25 in Pontiac, and 30 in Monroe. And so these temperatures will continue to slide until we get to daybreak, and it will be a very slow warm up and not a big warm up going into the afternoon. We only bounce back to about 30 today under partly to mostly cloudy skies, which means we do get a few peaks of sunshine today, which will be nice, but it will be cooler. We've issued a forewarned weather alert for Thursday morning. Let me walk you through the timeline of what we're expecting. So Wednesday evening, around 4:30, 5 o'clock, you might get a band of some snow that starts to creep north of the state line. This isn't going to lead to a ton of accumulation. In fact, we'll probably get a little lull late evening before the main event arrives right around midnight. So we're going to see a rapid transition to icy conditions. Freezing rain is a liquid precip that freezes on contact. Now, I'm not ruling out sleet in some areas, but that's going to be more likely up towards Saginaw, Flint, as opposed to those of us around Metro Detroit. So this is midnight, Thursday morning. Watch what happens. This lifts north, widespread freezing rain by 4 a.m., and that's going to lead to a glaze on the roads, especially elevated surfaces that'll freeze first. Then this pushes into the thumb by 10 a.m. with the rest of us drying out, but the damage will already be done when it comes to that morning drive, creating some very icy conditions, and that is why we have issued a forewarned weather alert due to what the travel conditions will be like for Thursday morning. As far as ice accumulation, probably about 1/10 of an inch along and south of I-94. Better chance for snow or sleet accumulation as you work your way farther north. Will this lead to power outages? You can't rule it out, but here's the details with that. Distribution lines, which are the lines that go to your home, they can usually handle up to about 1/2 of an inch of ice. So we're not in that ice warning criteria. The transmission lines that come from the power plants themselves can handle more than that. But the other factors to take into account would be wind or falling branches. Now, we do have gusty winds on tap Thursday, but it's likely going to be well after the freezing rain event, which works out in our favor. So through the morning, we're looking at those wind speeds in that 10, maybe 20 mile per hour range, but the wind gusts really amp up heading into Thursday afternoon and evening, where we're then in that 30 mile per hour range. And so the gustier winds, the colder air works its way in later in the day after all that precipitation is done. But as far as the impact, that ice accumulation will be possible, and that's going to have the biggest impact the pre-dawn hours into the morning rush hour drive on Thursday. That's round one. Round two arrives on Saturday, and that will likely begin as some snow with some freezing rain mixing in, or even some sleet. And that's in the afternoon and early evening of Saturday. So round two could bring some accumulation as well for Saturday. If you have plans, just take note that could slow you down as you're traveling out and about. We'll be in the 30s though by Friday all the way through the weekend after that brief little warm up on Thursday, right around 40. That's your future forecast.
That's what we were talking about the entire commercial break. Yes. Trying to prepare ourselves for the weather this week.
Nothing about Tuesday or Wednesday.
It's dicey.
Yeah.
I'm already starting to feel that itch in my throat for Thursday morning. So I don't have to drive in this. No. I mean, we have to drive in it too, just like everyone at home. And that's the biggest part, is this is going to have impact on travel Thursday morning. And so as we look at Exact Track 4D at this lunch hour, we picked up a few flurries there coming out of the clouds. I mean, these are just little flakes that are spitting out from the clouds. That's not going to lead to the accumulation out there, more so lake generated with some of that moisture. But that's a look at Exact Track 4D from about I-94 Metro Airport off towards Ann Arbor, stretching close to M59. Right now, live look at downtown Detroit. I wanted to show you the ice chunks there. Yeah, quite a few. And we were able to see a flake or two. It seems like that's kind of dissipated right now, but definitely an icy look out there, where in the city we sit at 30. But we're at 28 in Ann Arbor, 24 in Pontiac, 30 in Monroe, with northwesterly winds around 10 miles per hour, making it feel colder out there. And so those temperatures will be sliding into the 20s throughout the afternoon if they haven't done so already. And we hold on to that cloud cover for later on today. Today's not the issue here, really Thursday morning is, but let's walk you through the timeline of what we're tracking as we go into Wednesday. Tomorrow, we start off cloudy. I stopped the clock at 4 because we will likely see a little light band of snow that starts to develop. That might spit out maybe a little dusting in a couple isolated spots, but nothing prominent. And so then there's this lull until about midnight. Starting at midnight, we start to see freezing rain cross the state line. Now, if this is snow or rain on the onset, it's going to rapidly change to freezing rain as it starts to spread across the area. This latest model run makes this a little more scattered. I think that there's a high likelihood it'll be a little more widespread, but it has a great grasp of the timing here. So some snow up by Lapeer at 3 a.m., but 3:30, we're looking at freezing rain pushing through the heart of the metro area. Warm front lifts, pushes this out of here by 7 a.m. So the window will be about midnight until 7 a.m. that we're dealing with the freezing rain. But you saw that cold front just kind of sweep through real quickly. That's going to make those temperatures drop. So we get close to 40, but then the temperatures tumble and they're going to stay right around, if not below the freezing mark as we go throughout the rest of the week. So how much ice are we talking? This isn't going to be a massive ice storm, but we're looking at pretty much from anywhere south of M59, but probably closer to the I-96 corridor. So a glaze down to the state line where we could pick up about 1/10 of an inch of ice. Now, this doesn't come down necessarily as sleet. We're looking at a more probable scenario where it starts as snow aloft, a bigger inversion where that melts and not enough time to refreeze close to the surface and that thinner layer of freezing temperatures by the surface. So that's why we get the black ice. The rain is liquid and it freezes on contact and it creates that glaze on the roadways. Now, are we going to see power outages out of this? Probably not. Most of the lines can handle about 1/2 of an inch of ice. Now, we will have some gusty winds Thursday, but those don't arrive until we get in the later part of the day. Probably about 5 o'clock onward is where we see the 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts. And by then, we would have melted away any of the ice that we picked up throughout the morning. So this will be a morning commute that is impacted Thursday from this event. Just quickly to show you, come Saturday, we have round 2 where we'll have some snow and freezing rain working its way in Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening. So your full forecast, forewarned weather alert Thursday morning, temperatures slide again in the 30s going into the weekend.